We have started to record the most recent session of SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking, for the first summer session, scheduled for Thursday, June 27th, 2024. What you see on the screen is from the Southern Arkansas University website, the academic calendar. Look at the bottom of the first summer session. You can see where I have the cursor, grades are due on Campus Connect in the registrar's office by Monday, June 1st at 10 a.m. I have mentioned this over the course of the past couple of weeks. Whether it be fall or spring, either summer session, I've never forgotten what it was like to be a student. Particularly in an online course, there are some things that can set you astray, particularly connectivity issues, accessing Blackboard Ultra in particular. So what I am doing is two things. First of all, you should know that I always, fall, spring, either summer session, always wait until the last couple of hours, usually 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., somewhere in that window, to submit my final grades. For practical purposes, what does that mean for you? Anyone who still needs to submit a leftover informative, persuasive, wildcard speech, or needs to officially submit their self-evaluation speech critique, you can do it all the way through Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. I will still record a bonus session of the course, primarily because I want to read additional self-evaluation speech critiques that come in or play for the record and put my positive commentary on additional informative or persuasive or wildcard speeches that come in. So realistically, session 20, which, as I told you last week, will be called Course Summary, will be quite short as compared to what we've been doing over the past 3 weeks, with roughly about an hour 20 or an hour 30 for each of our course sessions. But I feel it's really important to give you as many instances as possible of previous speeches or outlines with audio or outlines with video, what's available at my website, what's available on Blackboard Ultra, what's available on my YouTube channel. My goal here is to have all of you improve. An additional goal is to, when we're looking at those self-evaluation speech critiques, are you honestly, in a positive way, noticing where you're having some issues with content or delivery or visuals, and how in the future, whether in an academic setting where you're giving a speech or a professional setting or graduate school, how being aware of what you look like on camera, whether it's lighting, whether it's the webcam, whether it's the slides, anything that you're putting together for the design consistency, is going to help you in the long run. Marketable traits are really essential in an online era. So much of what you're doing is going to be available on Zoom, on YouTube. You want to make certain that you come across in the most positive light. With that in mind, so there's no misunderstanding or confusion, again, looking at the academic calendar for Summer 1, 2024, Monday, July 1st, 10 a.m., final grades due to registrar. Realistically, I will submit everything by around 9 a.m. So this will always be backed up every term whenever I teach a basic speech course with an email. So for everyone, I will send out either a blanket or individual email reminding you if there's something over the next 72 hours that you still need to turn in. Make certain that I get it. You don't want your grade to be adversely affected by something that you did not turn in. Also, whether it's Loom, whether it's a self-evaluation speech critique, check your sent email file to ensure that everything has been sent to my SAU email address. It's quite possible that come Friday evening at midnight or Saturday evening at midnight, before we get to the month of July, you'll be locked out of Blackboard Ultra. That's the way it usually works. Go to my YouTube channel. That's where everything is, which is also the location where we are going to right now. I wanted to see the tab before I put it up on the screen. You'll recall that very recently, I was critiquing my own performance, looking at the last 2 minutes. Was I practicing what I was preaching in terms of everything we've talked about in this course? What I am doing here, leaving the screen this size, is playing the last 3 minutes from yesterday's class session, session 18, where we are looking at wildcard speech day 1. Remember, we have wildcard speeches during this class session and self-evaluation speech critiques. But for the record, what did I say to conclude the class? Here it is. So if I only have a couple, technically, of wildcard speeches tomorrow, that's okay. I want to make certain that when you send something to me, that you go to your sent email file, you know it's sent, you know that you have sent me a self-evaluation speech critique, and then you can sit back and relax, go to my YouTube channel, see the fruits of your labors. This is not easy. I appreciate the quality of your work, and occasionally I will joke about a mistake I will make. If I ever make a mistake in a long-form video like this, 45 minutes in, I'm not going to stop the recording. When I make a mistake, I am usually thinking ahead of a word, and a consonant from that term gets in 2 or 3 words early. Can't do anything about it. In your case, it's more concentrated. Think about, for today, the 5 speeches that we watched, all showing considerable improvement in being confident, in being thoughtful, in being knowledgeable, in being personable, in being telegenic, and self-aware of their strengths, weaknesses, perceptions as a public speaker. So for all of you, send me the wildcard speech that best exemplifies your professionalism and improvement in this course. We will continue with session 19, technically, wildcard speeches, day 2, tomorrow, with a potential bonus session 20 recorded Sunday evening. We'll see where we are. Good luck. As for SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking, for the first summer session of 2024, good luck in your respective preparation processes, and I will do it one more time. You would do it silently, but for the camera, and for YouTube, and for Blackboard Ultra, and for my website, I will do it verbally to officially conclude. 1001, 1002, 1003. And I won't do it tomorrow. We will see you in 24 hours. So that's the end of what we were doing in our most recent class session. Do I still evaluate myself in the same way that I always have? Absolutely. My goal, as you know by now, is to have everyone earn high grades in the course. One rationale for adding a bonus session, particularly when so many of you have indicated, whether it be through the university or from your home connections, there's been a problem with accessing course data through connectivity. I want to make certain that you have as many opportunities as possible to finalize the course in a positive manner. My view, which is why the website from SAU was up with the academics calendar, is just because technically, after this is posted on Blackboard Ultra, on my SAU Mass Communication website, and my YouTube channel, does not mean that the semester is over. For me, the class is only over when grades are due. Use that extra time to your benefit. An advantage of a Monday through Thursday course, and I teach it just like I would face-to-face. 19 class sessions. 3 days the first week, 4 days the final 4. That works best for me for a total of 19, but adding a bonus number 20, not a problem. Take advantage of the time if you need to complete a speech. Remember, I'm on your side, so please contact me. We move on to our first wild card speech of the week. A familiar face, we always start off with Emma, and her wildcard presentation is titled, "Why Should Animal Testing Be Banned?" Because these are the final speeches, I'll probably play them in their entirety twice. Once the way we always see them, and then twice with the audio down, checking out the transcript above my head on the webcam, taking a look at her eye contact, examining the design consistency of the slides, and most importantly, the level of comfort that you have with a topic that you choose. Are you improving, wait for it, in content, in delivery, in visuals? Our first wildcard speech of the day, and we have 3, is Emma discussing why should animal testing be banned. Here it is.
Hi, my name is Emma Johnson, and this is my persuasive speech on why should animal testing be banned. The very first reason is time consumption. With most animal testing on products, it takes approximately 10 years to complete animal testing for a set of products. Products also take a really long time to construct to be tested on animals, on top of the time it takes to go through the actual animal testing process. It is not worth it because majority of animal tested products don't pass the test, which results in losing millions of dollars for that company. The next reason is expenses. Animal testing is really expensive. About $15 billion and sometimes even more than that go into animal testing funded by the government every year. For example, an animal test for unscheduled DNA synthesis costs around $32,000, while the non-animal test of that very same thing is only $11,000. Majority of all product tests are more expensive when using animals rather than something else to test the products. Inefficient data. Testing products to be used for humans on animals may have no effect or only a certain amount of effects on the animals when being tested. The product, depending on what it is and how it works, could harm humans a lot more or in different ways than the animals it was tested on. The reason that the data could be inefficient is that animals have a different bodily system and functions than we do typically. Even though it may seem similar to humans, it can be very different. So when animal testing is used for certain products, they may not have any reactions or very few reactions. And if that were to be passed, then a human could use it and they could have very bad reactions or side effects or possibly even very, very permanent damage to themselves if we're not careful. Especially in medical senses, animal test results and reactions can be very different from humans. Majority of the animal tests for medical aspects of a product failed when tested on an animal. So majority of animal testing when the process is over, it fails, which is another reason why it should be banned, because a lot of the time it's not safe and it typically fails when done. It pollutes the earth. A lot of pollution takes place in the process of animal testing. A lot of the animals that didn't survive the testing process are disposed of along with the leftover of the product. Some products may contain chemicals or toxins or just anything that's unhealthy, especially when it's just dumped. Another major issue in pollution is when the tools and supplies used to administer the products are disposed of, creating dangerous pollution for people and the earth. People tend to be very careless when using animal testing processes. Whenever animals are tested on, a lot of the times they use syringes or they use all kinds of different tools that once used are no longer able to use on anyone else, and it's, dirty, and a lot of the times they just dump them along with the animal if the animal doesn't survive, and it just pollutes the earth and intoxicates the earth a lot. The very most important reason why animal testing should be banned is that it is very inhumane. Animals that are victims of animal testing suffer being locked up in cages and being forced to possibly face permanent damages to their health, as well as facing multiple traumas from that experience as an innocent animal. In these pictures here, you can see some examples of what it looks like when animal testing is done and how they're restricted, they're caged up. And this top picture right here shows you how it can cause them damage and it can hurt them in many ways. And anything is possible in animal testing. Animals can suffer multiple painful experiences, especially death. Animals are used and abused every day in the cruel process of animal testing. Because a lot of times when the animals are hurt, like in this picture up here in this bunny rabbit, they still continue to test them until they physically die, which is very inhumane and a very awful thing to do. These are all of my resources if you want to find out more information or if you would like to know more about the cause. I think they have some type of organization specifically for it, but these 3 websites are my sources that I used and ways that you can find out more. And that's all. Thank you.
The AI-generated response says it all for all of us during the first summer session. Thank you, Emma. Now let's do this. Because it is the final presentation, and as you know, me being a broadcast media person and a speech person, I like breaking everything down. That's how you improve. Think about what politicians are doing with debates at any level. Local, state, national. Video is a big part of this. How can you sell yourself? Well, in this case, we'll mute the audio, put the closed captioning on, and because I played it all the way until the end, we won't have any sync issues with the transcript on the right-hand side. Let's go ahead and watch this again. The entire speech, just over 5 minutes. Let's watch this in real time. Doing what we always have, examining the presentation from a variety of perspectives. Quality slide for the introduction. The title, setting up animal testing. And here we have time consumption. Breaking this down into a variety of areas. Content for this slide. The headline, the 2 bullet points with image data. Same thing with expenses. 2 bullet points, 2 visuals. Is she speaking in complete sentences? Obviously, the answer is yes. Animal testing is really expensive. $15 billion and possibly even more than that annually on animal testing funded by the government. From my perspective, because we're doing this for the first time, specifically playing a speech twice, once with the audio up, once with the audio down, even though I will bring it back up. Her slide consistency speaks for itself. We can tell she's roughly directly above my head, a minute and a half into the speech. Can you tell the definitive nature by which she has done research on animal testing? Yes. Is that reflected in her ability to speak in complete sentences? Yes. Or speaking in paragraph structure, which we don't discuss a lot until maybe the advanced public speaking course? Yes. So when animal testing is used for certain products, I'm on the right-hand side, they may not have any reactions or very few reactions. And if that were to be passed, then a human could be able to use it, and it goes on. I don't want to get too far ahead of her. So now 2 minutes in, is she concentrating with the webcam? If it's me, I probably go slightly larger. Remember, when you're on Loom, you have the option for a circular webcam to go smaller or to go larger. I like the larger version because it showcases you, but she might want to defer to a smaller webcam so her face is not going to obscure any images. But in her case, the location of the webcam works because she's going left flush for all of her slides, which gives her an opportunity to place her images or her photos closer to what she has in the bullet points. Very persuasive in her thesis. From this point on, let me take off this closed captioning and bring up the audio for her conclusion. Is she practicing what she is preaching?
Then intoxicates the earth a lot. The very most important reason why animal testing should be banned is that it is very inhumane. Animals that are victims of animal testing suffer being locked up in cages and being forced to possibly face permanent damages to their health, as well as facing multiple traumas from that experience as an innocent animal. In these pictures here, you can see some examples of what it looks like when animal testing is done and how they are restricted, they're caged up. And this top picture right here shows you how it can cause them damage and it can hurt them in many ways. And anything is possible in animal testing. Animals can suffer multiple painful experiences, especially death. Animals are used and abused every day in the cruel process of animal testing. Because a lot of times when the animals are hurt, like in this picture up here in this bunny rabbit, they still continue to test them until they physically die, which is very inhumane and a very awful thing to do. These are all of my resources if you want to find out more information or if you would like to know more about the cause. I think they have some type of organization specifically for it, but these 3 websites are my sources that I used and ways that you can find out more. And that's all. Thank you.
I'll let it recycle again. Think about this. From a delivery standpoint, has she improved her level of confidence, her level of being an authoritative speaker, knowledgeable, thoughtful, likable? You've heard me say those all during the term. But I think most importantly, at least right now, are there fewer instances of vocalics, grammar, drop G's, slang? And the answer is yes. One more run through her presentation. But I'm going to pause at the title slide. For those of you who use Loom, you know that occasionally It's not always user-friendly when you try to pause. The bottom part does not always accommodate you in the way you would wish. But title slide, very professional, doesn't call attention to itself. There is a professionalism to the way that she's put this together, which you would expect from a wildcard speech. There is also a consistency with the neatness and the style of the font for the headlines, for the text, for the bullet points, which allows you to, as you know, be both extemporaneous, and that's where the conversationality is going to flow. And she has examples of animal testing on the title slide. So now we just start taking a look at each slide one final time for the record. To time consumption, to expenses. The non-animal test is $11,000. Inefficient data. Are these slides sloppy? No. Are they informative? Yes. Are they persuasive? Yes. We go from inefficient data she's on there for quite some time, to it pollutes the earth. Nice shot of a bunny at the bottom. And then we just continue on to her ability to improve as a quality storyteller. It is humane. Occasionally, you're going to include visuals for these types of topics that are not warm and fuzzy, but it's important for the subject matter. And these are sad, but it's important to reinforce the element of inhumanity. From there, she moves on to her resources. Remember, in this class, it's not required, but if you want those to give you gravitas, which is source credibility, it's acceptable. Leaving the audio down. Now let's just play this. Look at her eye contact until the conclusion, and I'll pause this before it recycles. Is she concentrating? Yes. Does she look nervous? No, but that's what happens when you practice. You do this enough, you'll feel like an old pro, where you might be in circumstances with other students in other courses and they get really nervous, and it's because they're unsure how to prepare. Now, before we go to our second speaker, because we're examining Emma in detail for her improvement, what does she think? You're going to see next Emma's self-evaluation speech critique. We'll be doing that for our second speaker as well. She sent this to my SAU email address. It was forwarded to my alternate Yahoo email address, which is why it looks a little bit different in terms of the template. This is what Emma had to say for her self-evaluation speech critique. Quote, I have always felt like I was good at public speaking, but I always knew that there were things I could improve upon in many ways. Taking this course helped me get the boost in knowledge and experience that I needed to succeed in public speaking. Looking back onto whenever I did my first speech, DIY Slime, I really felt like I wasn't completely sure of what to do, so I just tried my best. I really need more education and experience in public speaking. Fast forward to now on my last speech presentation, I feel like I learned a lot from watching other people's speeches, as well as gaining my own experience through delivering my own speeches. I learned how to properly deliver a speech. I also learned things to avoid and things to remember to do when giving a public speech. I highly appreciate having Professor Reppert to help me learn and improve my public speaking skills. I feel like I have gained a lot from this class Emma Johnson, close quote. And you have, Emma, you've done an outstanding job. And I'm guessing that you will earn an A. Most of you have really improved, but you never want to take anything for granted. Just push through the finish line. When it comes to all 4 of your speeches, the self-evaluation speech critique, and class participation, checking into Blackboard Ultra. Remember, I can always check when the last time was you were there. Our second speaker for the day is going to be Marilyn. That is her self-evaluation speech critique, which we will return to after we have seen her speech. I am going to put her speech up in just a moment. I want to make certain that her transcript is available before I can share the tab. I'm on Google Chrome, so I have a number of tabs up on the screen. So this is my definition of being a television director. If I were in a face-to-face class, or if we were in Overstreet Hall, room 302 every day during the summer, Monday through Thursday, I would be doing this the same way. I suppose one of the benefits of having a background in broadcast media is during the pandemic, it was easy for me to transition being on camera and having all of these tabs up, because it really is like being a director, going from one tab to another and making certain that everything is in order before we start, because on Loom, it's not as user-friendly as Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. If I go in the wrong direction, the video might freeze. So I have to really choreograph how things are before you see what's on the screen. It is not unusual for people in public speaking situations, either online or face-to-face, to encounter panic attacks. And that's what Marilyn is going to be discussing. Like with Emma, for our first presentation on animal testing, we will play this in its entirety twice. Audio up, audio down, examining her graphics, then the self-evaluation speech critique. Our second wildcard speech of the day is from Marilyn, and she is going to discuss panic attacks, and here it is.
And this is my speech for the 4th and final week of Introduction to Public Speaking for the first summer session. Today, I will be presenting to you all about panic attacks. What is a panic attack? A panic attack is a sudden occurrence that may be triggered or could come out of nowhere. And whenever I say nowhere, I mean that it can happen even during a regular daily task. The results from a panic attack can include intense fear or anxiety. It can cause physical symptoms based on perceived threats rather than actual physical threats. Panic attacks can be different for everyone, but these are some of the symptoms of a panic attack. They include strong feelings of dread or danger, fear of losing control or of dying, anxious and irritable behavior or thoughts, feeling lightheaded or dizzy, having tingling sensations in the body, especially in the arms or the hands, and it also can occur in the face. Being hyper-aware of the physical feelings that you are having and the mental agony that is occurring. Tremors, shakes, and or sweats are also very common in individuals who are having a panic attack. While these symptoms may be different for everyone, these are some of the symptoms that are commonly shared amongst people who deal with them often. Now, that said, a lot of these are not all of these. There are several other symptoms that occur when you're having a panic attack. Who does it affect? It can happen to anyone. It's more common in teens and in adults because of the hormonal changes that are happening during your teenage years and early adulthood, but it can also begin in childhood. People who are born as females are twice as likely to experience one compared to those who are born as males. Now, all of this being said, beginning in childhood, that is what happened to me. My first panic attack that I recall happened whenever I was around 9 years of age or less, and it was very unfortunate, and no one really wants to talk about these things, but it's something that we really need to bring awareness to. Every year, up to 11% of Americans experience a panic attack, and around 2 to 3% of the United States population can have a panic disorder annually. These panic attacks can be the result of panic disorders, anxiety disorders, PTSD, OCD, and other mental illnesses or disorders. I personally suffer from panic attacks, like I said, but more recently I have experienced panic attacks because of the fact that I've been a victim to passive-aggressive behaviors and bullying from individuals at school. These same individuals have spread rumors about me that are false, causing me a lot of anxiety and paranoia, and it has been very challenging for me, but thankfully I have a fantastic therapist who has helped me, and I'm also on medications because I have anxiety disorders that have been diagnosed as well. All of that said, here are some ways to help panic attacks. While panic attacks cannot be prevented, there are several ways and tools to help them. Some of these include deep breathing exercises such as belly breathing, grounding techniques such as the 5-4-3-2-1 method, which is where you have 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can feel, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. Therapy is also something that's very helpful to individuals who are suffering from panic disorder or panic attacks. This is specifically happening with cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT, and emotional support animals can be very helpful as well. An example of this would be in the movie Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Puss has a panic attack, and he has a friend who is a dog, and he comes up to him and lays against his leg while he's having a panic attack, and he allows him to just pet him and feel the texture of his fur. This helps Puss to come back to and make it through his panic attack because of the fear and the trigger that he had had. Another way of helping a panic attack is through medication. Like I said, medication helps me, but it might not be for everyone. So something else that you can do to try and prevent having more frequent panic attacks is avoiding caffeine or alcohol and nicotine as well. These things can worsen the effects of a panic attack. And you should always remember that this too shall pass. Panic attacks or anxiety attacks. How to tell the difference. A panic attack is a primary factor in panic disorders. It can also exist with anxiety disorders, but anxiety disorders have anxiety attacks that occur most often. It can be a part of anxiety or panic disorder whenever you're having an anxiety attack, and it involves specific fears or occurrences, whereas panic attacks are unexpected and sudden. They typically don't have something backing them. Like I said, they can come out of nowhere, but there is triggers that can happen, that can occur and cause these unexpected panic attacks to be a little bit more expected after you've thought about it post-panic. These can be several back-to-back experiences, and whenever I was dealing with my panic attacks because of the experiences of recent times, a lot of those were concurrent and just bearing down on me, while anxiety attacks can be less physically intense and happen over time. They will slowly build up, and you typically know what's going on. Now, not to say that they are not as intense. They both are very, very difficult to deal with, but anxiety attacks are just less physically intense than panic attacks usually. In these images, panic attacks or anxiety attacks, the details. We are able to see more about the specifics. In anxiety attacks, you see it developing over a slower period of time. It's general feelings of unease, restlessness, or tension, whereas panic attacks start suddenly and peak within minutes or an hour. It can be intense physical pain and symptoms that feel like a heart attack or a life-threatening situation, even though you're not in one. Both of these can have you experiencing rapid heartbeats, shortness of breath, sweating, nausea, dizziness, or chest pain and discomfort. Panic attacks and anxiety attacks are different. A lot of the time people use them interchangeably, but they are not interchangeable terms. They are two different things. Behavioral health professionals use these terms for specific individual symptoms and disorders that occur in people. Anxiety attacks and anxiety exist on a spectrum. It can be anywhere from mild to severe, where panic disorders and panic attacks involve severe and disruptive symptoms. Panic attacks often occur without warning. Anxiety attacks can build up and happen throughout the day or throughout months. Thank you all for watching. I hope I've helped to enlighten you all about what a panic attack is, as well as an anxiety attack for that matter, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you.
And notice both of our speakers so far did the 1001, 1002, 1003, and again, the AI generated reply, thank you, Marilyn. So we will do the same thing with her that we just did with Emma. Play the speech in its entirety. You may think, you're going to play 8 minutes of a speech in its entirety? Yes, but there are two caveats. I'm going to play with audio the first 90 seconds with closed captioning, and probably at least the last 2 minutes with closed captioning in black on the screen. That's how you learn. And I should mention this before I start the video a second time. Remember, I told you at the outset of the first summer session that I could identify with all of you because when I was an undergraduate at North Dakota State University, I took the basic public speaking course during the summer, doing a lot in a concentrated amount of time. Being a college student has challenges and pressures to begin with, but if you've got issues with anxiety, it just multiplies the issue. That's why this particular topic is so relevant and so timely for a wildcard speech. We'll put the closed captioning on and just start from the beginning, and we will all watch her first 90 seconds with a transcript here above my head and right here.
And this is my speech for the fourth and final week of Introduction to Public Speaking for the first summer session. Today I will be presenting to you all about panic attacks. What is a panic attack? A panic attack is a sudden occurrence that may be triggered or could come out of nowhere. And whenever I say nowhere, I mean that it can happen even during a regular daily task. The results from a panic attack can include intense fear or anxiety. It can cause physical symptoms based on perceived threats rather than actual physical threats. Panic attacks can be different for everyone, but these are some of the symptoms of a panic attack. They include strong feelings of dread or danger, fear of losing control or of dying, anxious and irritable behavior or thoughts, feeling lightheaded or dizzy, having tingling sensations in the body, especially in the arms or the hands, and it also can occur in the face. Being hyper-aware of the physical feelings that you are having and the mental agony that is occurring. Tremors, shakes, and or sweats are also very common in individuals who are having a panic attack. While these symptoms may be different for everyone, these are some of the symptoms that are commonly shared amongst people who deal with them often. Now, that said, a lot of these are not all of these.
So that's the first 90 seconds with audio. As we do with Emma, look at the closed captioning. Most of you, as time goes on, are not only speaking in complete sentences, but when you break everything down and have a complete text in front of you, many students wind up speaking in a paragraph style. primarily due to the fact that you've practiced so much. You feel so comfortable. You know the topic so well. You've arranged the slides in a way that's going to maximize your knowledgeability of the subject matter. So within the context of the moment or your short-term memory, all of this data is just going to roll out. The challenge that some of you may have, and it does happen to me, I intentionally, on these course videos, speak slightly slower. If we were in everyday conversation, I might increase my delivery, but most of the time on instructor course videos, especially during the summer for the basic public speaking course, I dial it back a little bit. In all of your cases, with the pacing, whether it's faster or slower, what works best for you? It's not unusual if I see Emma or Marilyn or Kadaya, who will be our third speaker, if we looked at their library with all of the video takes for demonstrative, informative, persuasive, or wildcard, there's so many videos, and be honest, don't erase any. Where does a blank spot come up? Because I've told you that happens to me, where I will get just caught up on something. The video clip that I played from yesterday's class session at the beginning, where I will have an issue with a consonant. But in Marilyn's case, she channels her nervousness very well. We're now about 3 minutes and 40 seconds in, ways to help panic attacks. The bullet points, the second bullet point with a number of subheadlines within there, including therapy and ESAs. Remember, for any terminology people might not be aware of, go ahead and explain it. That's fine. And if you feel like you need a longer period of time, in this case more than 8 minutes, doesn't drag, because if you're speaking a little bit longer, you either have done one of two things. You have more bullet points with more text or more visuals on a slide, because just leaving this on the screen, playing it in real time, obviously, when she practices, she more often than not will focus on a different highlight to a different bullet point, because when she's talking about it, it may trigger a memory, or she may want to talk about a grounding technique, or she may want to talk about therapy in a different way than she had done on a previous take. Panic attacks is avoiding caffeine or alcohol and nicotine as well. These things can worsen the effects of a panic attack. Remember, in my case, I hope that's not the issue, because I'll turn it around this way, even though there are coffee stains. I feel so comfortable, I don't have panic attacks, so I have no problems. Not a shameless plug for Starbucks again. Drink caffeine. If you're speaking online like this for 4 to 6 minutes or a little bit longer, you probably have stayed hydrated beforehand. In my case, with a longer class, that's not the issue. We're now coming up on 6 minutes. Is she doing a good job at setting the parameters, the main points, the subheadlines, the research, the personal knowledge of the topic? Yes. Once we get to 6 minutes, I'll take off the black and white closed captioning, and as was the case with Emma, watch the last 2 minutes of her speech. How is she coming across? Here it is. How is she wrapping up the semester?
It will slowly build up, and you typically know what's going on. Now, not to say that they are not as intense. They both are very, very difficult to deal with, but anxiety attacks are just less physically intense than panic attacks usually. In these images, I should say, panic attacks or anxiety attacks, the details. We are able to see more about the specifics. In anxiety attacks, you see it developing over a slower period of time. It's general feelings of unease, restlessness, or tension, whereas panic attacks start suddenly and peak within minutes or an hour. It can be intense physical pain and symptoms that feel like a heart attack or a life-threatening situation, even though you're not in one. Both of these can have you experiencing rapid heartbeats, shortness of breath, sweating, nausea, dizziness, or chest pain and discomfort. Panic attacks and anxiety attacks are different. A lot of the time people use them interchangeably, but they are not interchangeable terms. They are two different things. Behavioral health professionals use these terms for specific individual symptoms and disorders that occur in people. Anxiety attacks and anxiety exists on a spectrum. It can be anywhere from mild to severe, where panic disorders and panic attacks involve severe and disruptive symptoms. Panic attacks often occur without warning. Anxiety attacks can build up and happen throughout the day or throughout months. Thank you all for watching. I hope I've helped to enlighten you all about what a panic attack is, as well as an anxiety attack for that matter, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you.
She really waits until pausing the video, which I really appreciate, because on occasion you'll see me going back and forth, and as you know, this is not always, when you're using Loom, the best technology to deal with, just from the standpoint of trying to be smooth. Be honest with yourself when you are recording a take. Break everything down the way I am here. In real time, it may feel laborious, but it really helps when you're online or face-to-face. All of this practice, and then whenever you get into any kind of a circumstance where you're being judged or people are evaluating you, whether for a grade or not, someone will come up to you and say, "Oh, you did such an outstanding job." But they don't realize that if you do something really well, it's not just happenstance. There's a lot of practice. There's a lot of preparation that you put into it, so it looks effortless. When all of us know, whether you're a student or whether you're a faculty member, there's a lot that goes into your content and delivery and visuals. We've seen that with all of you, with improvement during the first summer session. Her title slide on panic attacks. Similar to Emma, she's using the slightly smaller circular motif for the webcam on Loom. Then we get into defining the term. What is a panic attack? Never assume people know what a panic attack is or how one potentially could be triggered. And then we move on to symptoms of a panic attack. And many students have talked about that in the past. We've had these kinds of presentations before. And then moving on, ways to help panic attacks. And we talked about this when we were playing it for the second time, but being able to go in any direction you want with the headline, all of the data within the bullet points, and then the generic image on the right-hand side gives you the option, depending whether it's take 2 or take 5, what is most appropriate. My feeling is sometimes you may submit something that's 97 to 98% perfect, and maybe the way that she described this would be more effective in another take, but the rest of the speech may not necessarily be the way that she wanted it. That's been my standpoint from a professor's view, looking at all of these videos or all of the takes that you don't see that I record now and in years previous. We move on in terms of the storytelling to panic attack or anxiety attack. Very attractive setup, very knowledgeable. And this is what's really helpful with panic versus anxiety attacks, with all of this information, in case she needs to fill the time. Over 8 minutes was not an issue. Panic and anxiety are different. Why is that so important? And she continues, behavioral health professionals use these terms for specific symptoms and disorders. Anxiety is natural. Everyone's going to have that in a class like this because you're putting pressure on yourself to succeed. If you mess up in a face-to-face public speaking course, there's not as much room for error, but I'm very forgiving. I know this is not easy. And then we move on to her conclusion. And let's see if we can get a smile out of her there at the end. I have to be very careful. She's almost at the, there we go. So a smile. Now, for each person, you'll notice what I'm doing. Speech, look at it in detail, then move on to a self-evaluation speech critique. And that's what we are going to do with Marilyn. This is, once the tab is available for everyone to examine, this is her self-evaluation speech critique. Quote, Professor Reppert, when I first was faced with public speaking as one of my course options for the summer session, I was adamant about taking anything but this class. I knew that it was a part of my degree plan, but my hope was to put it off for as long as I possibly could. After I was informed that my only other option was no longer available, I swallowed my anxieties and pushed forward, determined to do well. I was not confident in my abilities whatsoever, but I did not want to retake a speech course. I have always had debilitating anxiety when it comes to public speaking, and I was sure that the format of your class would not be an exception to these feelings. But once we started, my outlook began to change. I leaned heavily into practicing as many takes as possible until I would run out of time and choose my best one to submit for the first two speeches. But after clicking the restart button so many times, I realized that I might not have been doing as poorly as I thought. For the final two speeches, I had adjusted to the fact that I would almost certainly make mistakes or get frustrated with my minor speech impediment and occasional stutter. But I began to feel not only okay, but happy with it. I believed it made me appear as what I truly am, a human. Perfectionism has always been a fault of mine, but mistakes are natural. And over the 4 short weeks we have worked through this course, I realized this. Your reviews of our speeches and how you would break them down into sections aided me in noticing that my environment and how I present myself are just as important as the content I am presenting. Stress and nervousness are something that we will all deal with, but you just have to keep going and not let yourself give up. Breaks are always important and necessary because progress is not linear and productivity is fluid. But I have learned that quitting does not have to be the response to making an error or even several. There is not a doubt in my mind that I've improved through this small but mighty singular summer session. And I not only owe that to you and my classmates, Professor, but to myself especially. I appreciate your patience and your kindness with each of us, as it has always been a huge part of easing my nerves I had about submitting the perfect product. I would recommend you and your course to anyone who needs to take public speaking or who just wishes to improve their speech skills. To conclude, I wanted to mention that for all of this, I am immensely grateful. Thank you so much, Marilyn Knuckles, close quote. Thank you for the kind words. But really, all of you deserve a pat on the back. I was mentioning during the replay of Marilyn's speech, and you've heard me say it a million times, this is not easy. When you look at what Emma had to say for the self-evaluation speech critique, or what was just said by Marilyn in her self-evaluation critique, it's one reason for me mentioning them and others from years gone by during class. The ability to be selfish. For many years, I would have students in a face-to-face context critique their peers. And if we go back to the classroom, I might revert to that. But in an online circumstance, just understanding the challenges that you face, you're not alone. So what Emma wrote, and here from Marilyn, you're probably listening to both of them, Marilyn's most recently, and thinking, I can identify with what Marilyn is talking about, but what she is discussing is something that I can feel when I'm practicing, clicking the restart button. Perfectionism. When she says, quote, progress is linear, or I should say progress is not linear, and productivity is fluid. That is so true. It won't be perfect, but we can always try to be as perfect as possible. That's not my quote. That comes from Hall of Fame football coach Vince Lombardi of the Green Bay Packers. But always strive to reach perfection. You may not get there, but the more you practice, the closer you will be. And most importantly, for a class like this, ideally, it will result in a quality grade as long as you turn in everything, which is why at the end of class, I'll talk about the bonus session or session 20, whatever I'm going to call it, the course summary that I will do technically before grades are turned in, Monday, July 1st at 10 a.m. Our third speaker of the evening is Kadaya. And I want to make certain that I have the correct tab up before we go to her. So bear with me for just a moment because I may have to open her speech tab one more time. In fact, I will do it from here. Remember, I'm doing this live. So let's find, here is Kadaya's speech. And by the way, this is my alternate email address. I will click on it one more time. Apparently before class, I clicked out of it, but I will put her tab now on the screen. It shows that I record in real time and I don't edit. Our third presenter of the evening is Kadaya, and this visual will get unblurred in a moment. She's going to, for her wildcard speech, discuss this topic. Are phones and social media affecting how kids grow up? Here it is.
Hi, my name is Kadaya Curry. I am doing my wild card on persuasive speech. And are phones and social media affecting how kids grow up? Are phones and social media affecting how kids grow up? Yes. Phones and social media can affect how kids grow up in many ways, including their mental health, behavior, and ability to interact with others. Mental health. Frequent social media use may be linked to changes in developing brain that affect emotional learning, impulse control, and emotional regulations. Studies have found that adolescents who spends more than 3 hours a day on social media have double the risk of depression and anxiety symptoms as non-users. Behavior. Technology use can lead to social and behavioral problems because it reduces the amount of time kids spend interacting with others. Kids may also put themselves in risky situations because they see influencers online who don't face the same consequences as they do. Interactions. Because conversations on social media don't happen in real time, kids may take more time to consider their responses. This can make kids feel like calling someone on the phone is too intense because it requires more direct communication. Other effects. Social media can also expose kids to cyberbullying, which has been linked to depression and suicide. It can also distract kids from homework, limit family time, and make kids feel lonely and isolated. Other potential effects include not enough sleep, obviously, delay in learning and social skills, problematic internet use, sexting, loss of privacy, and predictive. Thank you.
The first thing that jumps out to me before we play Kadaya's speech for a second time is the sincerity that she has regarding the topic. The other thing that she still needs to work on, of course, even though she did a good job here, is time management. You need to get to that minimum of 4 minutes. There are a variety of ways that you can get there, whether it's adding additional slides, adding additional text, adding a video clip, or putting different types of images into your slides, using your personal experiences or those of your friends for the subject. But let's go ahead and watch it again,
Hi, my name is Kadaya Curry.
muting the audio, and I may have to move this for a moment. Closed captioning. Are phones and social media affecting how kids grow up? Yes. What is impressive, first with Emma, then with Marilyn, now with Kadaya, think about what has been discussed over the past 5 weeks. Your level of professionalism or confidence into the webcam. You're not nervous, you're focused on what you want to say. In Kadaya's case, we just need more of it. And I would pay particular attention to, as I mentioned a moment ago, just add a couple of slides, because being under time will affect her grade or anyone's grade. Is it something that's really, really negative? No, but it has to be taken into consideration. Technology use can lead to social and behavioral problems. Bring up our audio for the conclusion. Leave the closed captioning on.
Interactions. Because conversations on social media don't happen in real time, kids may take more time to consider their responses. This can make kids feel like calling someone on the phone is too intense because it requires more direct communication. Other effects. Social media can also expose kids to cyberbullying, which has been linked to depression and suicide. It can also distract kids from homework, limit family time, and make kids feel lonely and isolated. Other potential effects include not enough sleep, obviously, delay in learning and social skills, problematic internet use, sexting, loss of privacy, and predictive. Thank you.
You are noticing that for each of our presenters, there aren't a lot of issues with drop G's, vocalics, grammar, or slang, and that is good to see. Let's check out our slides one by one.
Hi, my name is Kadaya Curry.
Eventually, I will move this back down into the bottom, but I don't want to take away from her presentation. So there's her title slide, very attractive. She's using Canva. Lighting, composition. wide enough so if you ever move around, not an issue, easy to see, very professional in her approach. And then we just move on. This is where, Kadaya, when you're talking about our phones and social media affecting how kids grow up, for each of your slides, I don't even know if you have to add more than maybe one slide to fill the time. Probably just linger a bit more on each of your points. They're bullet points without the little dot in front of them, but here's where you just go ahead and take your time to discuss phones and social media can affect how kids grow up in many ways, including their mental health, behavior, and ability to interact with others. How are they doing that? If you want to add some kind of a study, some kind of a visual or an image, Canva allows you to do that. Or maybe you find a YouTube channel or an Instagram account or a TikTok where people are talking about it. It could be parents, it could be young people. Let's move on to her next slide. Mental health, again, nice research. Frequent social media use linked to changes in the brain, learning, impulse control. Again, even here, some type of additional link or additional visual to give you more data to fill the time would be appropriate. There's no reason to rush. Studies have found adolescents spending more than 3 hours a day have double the risk of depression. That's not unusual. Oftentimes on social media, if you see something, you may feel like in comparison, you're not necessarily measuring up. It's the way things are. Then we go to behavior, technology leading to social and behavioral problems, reducing the time kids spend interacting with others. You'll see it on a college campus where students are interacting with their phones or their computers more than with individuals in face-to-face courses. And certainly, do influencers, and that's a really relevant point, are influencers facing the same consequences? Are they being hypocrites? Are they just looking for clicks? That's where looking at the closed captioning at the bottom, this time in Canva, really is appropriate. When she discusses interaction quoting, because conversations on social media don't happen in real time, kids may take more time to consider their responses. This can make kids feel like calling someone on the phone is too intense because it requires more direct communication. Because people don't talk on the phone the same way maybe that when their parents or their grandparents were in school before social media. Again, very intense look on camera. So we go from interaction to other effects. Let's do that one more time. Let's listen to her conclusion, the last 45 seconds.
Because it requires more direct communication. Other effects. Social media can also expose kids to cyberbullying, which has been linked to depression and suicide. It can also distract kids from homework, limit family time, and make kids feel lonely and isolated. Other potential effects include not enough sleep, obviously, delay in learning and social skills, problematic internet use, sexting, loss of privacy, and predictive. Thank you.
And that is her conclusion. You can see from the time, it's 2:31. I just wish there was a little more. She does a good job. But with everyone, myself included, there are always things that can potentially be discussed in greater detail. But looking at Emma, then Marilyn, then Kadaya, really thoughtful perspectives on a wide variety of issues, which is one reason for utilizing a wildcard speech, something at the end of the term that you would really like to discuss. So wish me good luck here. I don't want my webcam to go away. Just luck. So those are the 3 wildcard presentations that I have. A couple of other items on the agenda before we wrap things up for session 19, which is listed on Blackboard Ultra and on my YouTube channel as Wildcard Speech Day 2. Well, obviously, I don't have everyone's wildcard speech yet. So for those of you who get locked out of Blackboard Ultra, either Friday or Saturday at the latest, keep in mind that I have on my website, which you should bookmark, but also on my YouTube channel, everything that you need to know. I'm going to my YouTube channel next. When you click on the tab at Blackboard Ultra, this is what you see. Everything that we have done with examples from your students and from students from years gone by, with the links provided in Blackboard Ultra, are all here. But when you click on my YouTube channel, that's the first thing that you see. You can also click on videos, and in reverse chronological order, this is everything that I have posted during the first summer session. The 18 previous course sessions with examples of persuasive, informative, and demonstrative speeches. There's the course overview. Now, from this point, you're going to see different types of videos that I have posted in years gone by, many of them that you have seen from the basic public speaking course. This is one way to access videos for the course. But remember, guys, and look at me while I'm saying this, Monday, July 1st at 10 a.m., as we are recording this, scheduled for Thursday, June 27th, that's a long time away. And I want to make certain that everything that you give me for the course is available and turned in. So in your case, here's what I would do. In addition to checking the videos, scroll down to this playlist. Notice it was recently updated. Go to this playlist. When we're doing this live, we have to be very careful and not go too fast. But you'll see examples of what I have done in years gone by, but for your benefit. Starting here with demonstrative speeches from fall of 2020, representative examples from 2020 to 2023 of demonstrative speeches, including Summer 1 2024, informative speeches, including Summer 1 2024, and finally, with all of these persuasive examples, we'll move down just a tad in this case, including, I went up too far. I wanted to see the persuasives, including right here, Summer 1 2024. I was getting a bit ahead of myself because with the wildcard examples, directly underneath them, Summer 1 2022 courses, then Summer 1 2023 courses, and everything that we have done in this class, starting with the overview a few weeks ago. And session 18, which was from 24 hours ago. We will end for the day in just a moment going to Blackboard Ultra. For anyone who still needs to give me a leftover informative, persuasive, wildcard speech, or a self-evaluation speech critique, take a look at how we've been evaluating presentations during the term, particularly 14, where we went in great detail on self-evaluation speech critiques, and 18, we did the same thing. And we were just doing it first with Emma, second with Marilyn. That's an important 10 points earned in the course. We will conclude session 19 by going to Blackboard Ultra. I have it in the student preview mode, even though realistically for some of you over the weekend, as I share the tab, you may get locked out because technically the classes are over, even though grades have not been turned into Campus Connect at this time. But for the record, when you are here, the grade book has been updated as of 24 hours ago with everything that you have done. The wildcard speech grades have not been posted, but they will be as soon as I have this video session, number 19, on both my SAU Mass Communication website and available on YouTube. Demonstrative, informative, persuasive, wildcard speeches, each worth 20 points, self-evaluation speech critique, class participation, worth 10. You've heard me say this before in green. I'll do it one final time. Thursday instructor course videos will be recorded and posted in the evenings, weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5, to include all graded speeches for that week. Everything that I have that has been sent to me at my SAU email address, every speech has been evaluated during an instructor course video. If you don't see a speech from you, it's because you either have not sent it, it was sent to the wrong email address, or there was just an issue with recording on a platform. But remember, I need those to complete the term. All wildcard speech videos or links to videos must be submitted to jereppert@saumag.edu no later than Thursday, June 27 at 5:30 p.m. I've been very, not lenient, but very understanding when it comes to using the new technology, which is why, for your benefit, after I have concluded this instructor course video, a friendly email reminder will go out to everyone in case you still need to pass something along. Just understand that. And then for the final time, before we get to our bonus session, in the student preview mode, the instructor information, the course tour with video, the communication and interaction policy, minimum required technology and skills, the module overview, instructor information, website, YouTube, you really need to bookmark those, the course syllabus that also has the itinerary, the course speech schedule, the SAU speech critique, Bloom, SlidesGo, also helpful even though it's not listed there. All of the instructor course videos, with Thursday session 19 being posted very soon. What Emma and Marilyn have mentioned, the previous examples that you just saw on my YouTube channel, and there are many more, of wildcard, persuasive, informative, demonstrative speeches, and then directly underneath it, current examples from this class in reverse chronological order: persuasive, informative, demonstrative. I'm going to conclude right here for session 19. Ordinarily, this would be the final video of the first summer session, but I am throwing in a bonus session. I don't know at this time whether I will call it session 20 or bookmark the course, where we started off with a shorter course evaluation or course overview. I might call this a course summary, giving those of you an opportunity between now and Sunday evening at 11:59 p.m. to submit, after I give you a friendly reminder with an email, a leftover informative or persuasive wildcard speech or a self-evaluation speech critique. Even though it may not be nearly as long as our traditional 19 course sessions, it may be not much longer than the course overview at the beginning of the first summer session, but giving all of you an opportunity to, between now and Sunday evening, submit videos of speeches or self-evaluation speech critiques. Remember, grades are due for the first summer session Monday, July 1st at 10 a.m. I will not submit those grades until probably between 8 and 9 a.m. to give everyone an opportunity to submit anything that may need to be submitted. We've done really good work so far. For those of you who still need to hand something in, let's make certain that 1, you do so. So 2, I can talk about it during the course summary. And 3, like what you've seen this evening, you can do the best possible work, which will result in ideally the highest possible score, with positive constructive criticism being a part of the equation. Always remember to check your email for information, because we're not done yet. There's still work to do. A shorter, over the weekend, public speaking course overview. Look for it on my website, but realistically, look for it on my YouTube channel. My guess is I will provide a link to my YouTube channel or this class in the email that everyone will be receiving shortly. As for SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking, for the first summer session, we're almost home. There's still work to do. Go to my YouTube channel, check it out in case something still, for the 4th time in 90 seconds, needs to be submitted. Good luck, and I will do this one more time for session 19. Officially our last course session, but not quite. There's still work to do. 1001, 1002, 1003. Let's keep up the good work and finish in style.